All right, welcome back to another Mike and Ian podcast, everybody. Today, Mike will demonstrate how a very popular lesson in his classes, which is teaching authentic writing through Google Maps.
Yes, sir.
Mike, what you got behind you?
Okay, so behind me on this magic whiteboard are examples of the lesson that you're going to do today. So as you can see, they're really colorful, really fun. There's a lot there. This particular lesson I usually do with the 6-month adult trainees. They are advanced level speakers. They come to JIEI for 6 months and they take a trip overseas. However, this lesson can absolutely be tailored for middle school and high school students of all different levels. And we'll take you through the methodology on how to do that today. So I thought for today's lesson, I would take the role of instructor, and then Ian would take the role of a good and bright student.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so again, what you see behind me are just, some reviews, because what you're going to do today is you're going to do two things. You're going to write a restaurant review, and you're going to publish it live.
Whoa.
All right, let's get started. So if you come look at this beautiful screen here, it says writing reviews. I always try to make my presentations as colorful and realistic as possible. Students know technology, so here's the technology. Let's begin the lesson. So Ian, student, I have a question for you.
Yes, Mike, teacher.
Why do we read or write reviews?
I think that we read or write reviews because we either want to encourage or promote businesses that we like and that we have favorable experiences at, or we want to warn people against establishments that give us negative experiences or could be something to watch out for.
Exactly. There is one word that I'm looking for. It's a 동사 or a verb. When you write a review, Ian, why are you writing review?
To recommend.
To recommend, and I'm looking for a verb that starts with H.
To help?
To help. Yes. So we're writing a review for two reasons. Number one, Ian was correct, to recommend, or maybe not to recommend. And number two is to help. That is the main reason that we write a review, is because we hope that we're helping other people. So here I have this slide. It's presented for advanced speakers. You can dumb down the language or simplify the language if you'd like. But I always like to talk about how the main point is by posting an online review, you're helping others. Here's where we come to our first slide. I know that in Korea, Naver is really popular and Naver has really good blogs. In fact, whenever I want to try a new coffee shop or restaurant or travel to Jeju, I always go to Naver blogs.
And if I want to know the times at the Yosu ferry terminal, I also go to Naver blogs.
Yeah, for sure. Bus schedule. Naver is great, but Naver is great in Korea. So outside of Korea, you'll find that in the main English-speaking world, Google rules it all. Google is everything. So Google is our one-stop place that we go to, to look at maps, to get bus times to, and to get reviews. It's all built in one screen. I'm going to show you real quick. So let's say we go to Google Maps. Okay, are you able to see this map of Yosu?
Yes, I see Yosu. It looks good.
Here we are on Dolsando, but let's go over to Uncheon. Uncheon is the new happening part of town. Now, one thing I want to warn you on is, because Google is not quite as developed in Korea, the maps aren't going to be as clear, but you will still be able to find what you're looking for. You can always type in English or you can type in Korean. So let's do Thai food.
Yummy.
Here we go. My favorite restaurant in Yosu. It's a good matjib. It's Coconut Rain.
Oh, yum. Okay. What we got here?
And they fixed the spelling. Yay. Previously. So let's come over here. Let's see. Let's look at this guy here, Mike Keebleback. He looks like an interesting guy. Looks like he wrote a review and published some pictures.
Yes, he did. He had some nice things to say, apparently.
Ian, how many stars did he rate this?
5 out of 5.
Yeah, 5 out of 5. Would you say that's a good review?
I would say there is no better.
Yeah, that's correct. I gave it a perfect review. So you can hear my voice, this is how I feel when I go there. Tasty Thai. Every time I come here, the food is consistently good. It's the best Thai that I've ever eaten in Korea. The papaya salad tastes like the papaya salad that I loved eating in Bangkok. I always come back and back and back. So what do you think of this review? Is it interesting? Is it colorful? Is it boring?
I think the only thing you missed is tastes so good it makes me want to pound my fist on a desk.
Makes you want to pound your fist on a what?
I hear you pounding your fist on the desk. You missed that part. It tastes so good it makes me want to punch a table.
Ah, yes. So this is what we call descriptive or colorful language. We don't, when we're reviewing a restaurant, we don't want to say, I went to Tasty Thai. I ordered Thai food. It was good. The restaurant was good. It's delicious. You should go there. Did that help you, Ian? Did that help you decide?
It was more helpful than nothing, but not that much more.
Yeah, it's really not helpful at all. So when we write reviews, we really, really want to help someone. So we either want them to go there or not go there. So as you can see in Google Maps, you can review or find anything. So Ian, today we are going to publish a review on Google Maps.
Yes.
Have you used Google Maps before?
Sometimes. I often use it to find directions or to find local restaurants.
Right. Google Maps is a lifesaver. So with this lesson, if you, the teachers, allow tech in your classroom, you can have the students use their cell phones, tablets, or Chromebooks to go along with the lesson. So you can teach the lesson tech or non-tech. For today, we're going to do a fusion of both.
Yeah.
So Google Maps, you can write and publish reviews. You can teach directions. These are just examples of lessons you can use. Today, we're going to use it for authentic language. So this brings us to our first example. I think it's very important for students to see examples of what you'd like them to do. And so I modeled a review of a place I went to in Hong Kong. Why don't you all take a moment to just read that? Okay, now that you've read the review, what do you think? Is it a good? Is it a positive or negative review?
It's quite positive. What I notice most is the specificity of the details.
And how so? Can you give me an example?
Well, you recommend specific foods, for example, the radish cakes or the barbecue dumpling buns. And you also mentioned that you ate breakfast there the following 2 mornings. You give very specific information, almost as if you're telling a story.
Yes. So when we have a good food experience, we should share that. We should make it like a story. What you just said is exactly what I tell my students. You want to make a story, but a fun and interesting story of your experience. Ian, do you notice my opening line? What is my opening line?
Delicious dim sum! Exclamation point.
Right. See how simple that is? Delicious dim sum. When you're writing a review, the most effective titles or opening sentences are short and sweet. You know, in English, we're told we need to write, really long, beautiful, poetic sentences. Yeah, that's true if you're writing a poem or publishing a book. But here we're writing a review. Let's keep it short. Let's keep it trendy. You can use hashtags, or you can say delicious, period, dim sum, period. These are all, kind of short and sweet ways to talk about your opener. But your opener, the delicious dim sum, your opener is almost the most important line. Because if you have a boring review, delicious food. Okay, scroll. Next. No one wants to read a boring title. So it's very important that your opening sentence, it's like you're going fishing. You want to catch the reader and draw the reader in.
I once took a class in news writing, and it's very similar when we write the lead, the LEDE. We want to make sure that first sentence captures the most essential information, but can also entice the reader to dive deeper into the article and into the topic.
Yeah, I agree. It sets the tone of the paper. And also what I think is fun is you don't have to do this, but I've included some personal pictures of my experience there. I always try to personalize lessons for my students to make it a little bit more interesting. But I use some colorful language in here. I said that the soft dumpling bun is heaven in your mouth. So let me ask you this. I'm going to give you 2 examples. The dim sum was delicious. The dim sum was heaven in my mouth. Which sentence makes you want to eat there more?
I'm biased because I just love dim sum, so you could probably tell me the dim sum was okay and I'd still go. But number 2 is far more evocative.
When I talk about the heaven in my mouth and it's a soft, hot dumpling bun, can't you picture that?
Sure.
Can you picture?
Yeah, it's so hot it burned my mouth and it hurts so good.
Right. Hurts so good. That's some good descriptive language there. From this, I like to flash this on the front screen so the students can see a good example. Now we're going to go to a mediocre or average example. So it's neither good, neither bad, just kind of average or forgettable. So Ian, how many stars did I give this?
She gave it 3 out of 5.
Yeah, so it's just kind of in the middle. It's not great. It's not bad. Let's go deeper. So it says this restaurant was in a great location in Itaewon and close to everything. Okay, so she told us where it's at.
Yeah.
My friend and I were sat on the balcony, so there was a nice view of the streets.
Okay, two positives so far.
Right. I also call this setting the scene. She describes the scene of the restaurant where we're at. And setting the scene is almost just as important sometimes. Okay, so we got 2 positives. The only things I felt could have been better were the salsa, chips, and dip. They weren't unlimited. Usually they're unlimited. Okay, so we got number 1. Number 2, everything on the menu was overpriced. What's meant by overpriced? Can you explain it to our viewers, Ian?
Overpriced means it costs too much. It costs too much relative to what you get.
So the food tasted good. So there's that word, good. That's why I tell students to stay away from the word good and delicious, because they're overused words. How was it? It was good. Did you like it? Yeah, it was good. It doesn't really tell us about the food, but in this case, it does tell us about the food because we know it's just an average review. Now at the end, can you read her final sentence for me?
Overall, though, it was an all right experience.
All right experience. Is that how you want to describe some place to go eat?
It's how I describe a place that is like purgatory.
Okay, explain purgatory.
Purgatory is a place that's not heaven and not hell. It's very average.
So for us, especially me that loves tacos and loves Mexican food, there's nothing worse than a disappointing taco.
Well, you're telling me.
So this is what you guys are going to do today. You are going to make a review.
Cool.
Now I'm going to give you 2 choices. Choice number 1 is a restaurant or cafe or coffee shop review. And number 2, Ian, what's number 2?
Number 2 is an attraction, which it can be a sightseeing or a shop or perhaps a cafe.
It can be any place that you go to that you want to recommend or not recommend. So, Yep. All right, so we'll skip through here. I want to give you some examples. You can see some examples behind me, but let's make it full screen so you can see more. So I do have this trainee's permission to use this. This was a trainee from our program a couple years ago, and this by far is the best review I've ever read by a trainee. I was just so immensely impressed with the descriptive language and everything she used in here. Now, again, she is an advanced level speaker. She's an English teacher. I don't expect this of students. I usually expect 1 to 2 paragraphs. But for the sake of the example, she did a great job of describing it. She talks about her first experience, and I just want to sum everything up by her opening sentence. She says, "My first milk bar experience ended sadly. I shouldn't have had many expectations. Before going there, I was so excited to go because it was famous." So she's kind of set it up like, oh, this is a really well-known place. I wanted to go there for that. But then as we read on, which I'll give you time to do that, you can see it wasn't the best of experience. Okay, now that you have read that, coming to this second review here is Hard Rock Cafe. So it's a very popular musical chain here in the US. The 6-month program trainee really liked it. They gave it 4 stars. But what I want to show you about this is with Google, you know how many people are reading your reviews because Google will send you notifications through your Gmail, or when you log into Google Maps, it'll say, 3,000 people have read your review. But Google is so used by people that in this case, you can see that the restaurant manager took the time to write back. And that's quite common. So the thing about reviews is many restaurants live on reviews. They need reviews, especially during, COVID-19 or coronavirus. They need people to come in. And so they wrote her back a thoughtful response. Thank you for submitting a review in regards to your recent visit. We look forward to seeing you again. Yeah, pretty, standard, generic response. But this goes to show you that people read this. Not only other people, but the restaurant staff. They read these.
Oh, yeah.
So your review can make a difference. Now, let's roll our sleeves up and let's get started. Okay, Ian, I'm going to hand you this worksheet.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so on my screen, you can see step 1. I like to scaffold this lesson to students in 3 steps. So after we've talked about what is a review and I've shown them some examples, I give them this worksheet that you see on the screen. It's descriptive words or adjectives of taste. So I give students, some brain thinking time. I let them work with a partner, and then they circle the words they don't understand. So I let them use dictionaries to look up words, but if there's a word on there that really just stands out, I want them to circle that. Ian, did you have any words that stood out?
Yeah, so some of the words that stood out. One of them was chewed. That's one of the favorite ways I like my food is chewed.
Chewed, okay.
And furry. I'm not going to lie. If my food comes back furry, 99% of the time it's getting 1 star. I don't understand that verb, that adjective.
Absolutely. I don't understand it either. Again, most of these words we do use when we're describing food. There are some new, trendier words, but furry, I think, means exactly what you think it would mean.
Oh, that's gnarly.
It would mean like a peach. When you get a really ripe, juicy peach, it can be fuzzy or furry.
That's true. If I ordered a kiwi, okay, I'll give it more stars. Almost anything else, steak, soup, salad, no, 1 star for your furry salad.
Agreed.
My last one that I really liked was vanillary, because it sounds like a Shakespeare. It sounds like a Shakespeare play, like, oh, milady's not sweet today. Get thee to a vanillary.
Yeah, I think the definition's twofold. So in case you didn't know this, to our Korean English teachers, when we use the word vanilla in English, vanilla also means plain or mediocre. Yep. Even though vanilla itself is an exotic taste, when we say, oh, this is so vanilla, he's so vanilla, she's so vanilla, it just means we think it's average. Because if you go to Baskin-Robbins and there's 32 flavors, I want choconamu, that's my favorite. But if you have a friend that gets vanilla, we just think, oh, kind of boring, that's so vanilla.
Plain Jane.
So Ian has gone through this worksheet and he has circled, the 4 or 5 adjectives he wants to use to describe his food. If you notice on the right, in the corner, I have banned words. It means I don't let those words in the review. They're overused words. They don't tell me anything. It was nice. It was good. It was okay. Banned. Cannot use those words. It's a great way to challenge your students to expand their vocabulary. Okay, so Ian has completed worksheet number 1. Good job, Ian. All right, step number 2. Step number 2 is the same thing. I'm going to hand Ian this worksheet. Here you go, Ian.
Thank you.
All right, Ian. Now you see some adjectives. What do the adjectives describe? Does it describe food or does it describe the place?
I would say this describes the place, the physical setting, not the food itself.
Right, that's correct. So these are words that describe what Ian just said, the place, and it also describes the vibe. Ian, can you tell us what a vibe means when we say, what's the vibe of the restaurant?
That's really hard to describe, but I would say that a vibe is a set of emotions, feelings, and kind of impression that you get from a location.
Oh, I think that's really well said. Yeah, I like the word impression. The vibe is how the restaurant feels. So, like, if you go to your favorite restaurant and I say, Ian, that bangin' taco that we went to in Jeju,
Hmm.
what was the vibe of that restaurant?
The vibe of that restaurant was very trendy and a little bit more modern. You sort of feel like this is a place where hip and upcoming people like to go.
That's a lot of adjectives, but very well said.
Hey Mike, what is the vibe of McDonald's?
Is there a vibe to McDonald's?
I think every place has a vibe.
I would say McDonald's is very cookie cutter.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. What do you mean by cookie cutter?
Cookie cutter can be used to describe houses. Like in the USA, many of us live in cookie cutter houses. In Korea, many people live in cookie cutter apartments. It's just the same thing over, like you used a mold or a cookie cutter. If you've been to one McDonald's, you've been to every McDonald's.
I always get a factory vibe.
Yeah, exactly. It's like factory, get in, get your food, get out, go. Get in, get out, go.
Right.
Exactly.
Efficiency. That's not a place to relax or take your time.
Correct. Ian, do you see any adjectives on here that you don't understand? Did you circle any?
What do you mean by upbeat?
Upbeat. Upbeat is when you go there and you have a good time. You're with your friends, the server or the waiter is very positive. There's just a good feeling. People are around you, are having a good time. So it's very upbeat, you know?
Okay, so like the mood and the energy is more elevated. It's more higher.
Correct.
Okay.
My bad.
I guess that's my only question. I understand most of the rest.
Okay, good job. All right, so Ian and his group mates have completed step 2. We go on to step 3. Step 3, I'd like to make a point and emphasize, you can't write a review without using contractions. Now, this is something that I struggle with trainees and non-native speakers of English, because contractions are hard. I mean, they are difficult if you're not a native speaker, but contractions do 2 things. They bring the level of the language down. It makes it more informal, a more casual tone, and it makes you sound more natural and native. When you look at any type of review, contractions are used. You simply won't find a review without a contraction being used. So that being said, I tell my students they have to use contractions. You're writing a review like you're writing a letter to a friend, not like you're publishing something to go in an academic journal. Reviews are informal, which brings us to this sheet. Let me hand it to Ian. Ian, there you go. So Ian and his buddy, they're taking a look at these contractions, and you can set a minimum. So usually I will set a minimum of 4 contractions. Your paper must contain 4 contractions. And that's very easy. Students will probably go over that limit. Do you have any contractions, questions, Ian?
No, not me. I do think, let me ask you something. If you were teaching this to a middle school class, how many contractions would you list? This looks like you have about 40.
Yeah, I would give them this full list.
Okay. Yeah.
I would do that for both middle school and high school. And
Nice.
let them look, because chances are they've seen all of these. And there's a few, like mustn't, that isn't super common.
You mustn't eat here. The
Exactly.
cooking is just so not good. It's just so not good.
Correct, lovely. So that was Ian's British accent. But yeah, I give them all of these. Why not? It gives them more to choose from.
I see. It's good. It's a good reference. It's a really good reference.
Yeah, I think of my English teacher, Mrs. A. Smith, and she always said, your language can never not be vivid enough. You should always expand your vocabulary as much as possible. Okay, so after we've gone through contractions, your students will have looked at 3 worksheets.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I hand them a blank piece of paper, and I say, okay, this is your assignment. And as you see up here, this is what I would do for the 6-month trainee advanced speakers. But I have must include a minimum of 7 to 8 sentences. You know your students' English level. I mean, if they're beginners, 3 to 4 sentences. Intermediate, 4 to 8, or you're the teacher. You can do as many as you please. So when I give the assignment guidelines, I always have everything in blue of what I expect. I don't want the students to have an idea of what they should or should not do. They can look at this and know exactly what's expected.
Yeah, it's quite clear.
So that being said, Ian, 1 hour later, how was your review? Did you finish it up?
Yeah, it's looking good.
Since I've already seen Ian's review as the teacher, Ian finished a little bit early because he's a smart student, so I had him peer check it with his partner. And since it looked good, I want Ian to take over and do the final step. The final step is not actually writing the review, but it's taking the written review and publishing it in Google Maps. And I'd like Ian to do that for us.
All right, let's go find this restaurant. 내가 조선의 국밥이다. Let's go. I like this place.
Ooh, 맛있겠다.
Yeah. All right, so I will go down here, write a review. Nice. I'll give this place 5 stars. It's one of my favorite places to go.
5 stars. It must be really good.
Imi Huangtae Heaven. Visit this restaurant quite often, especially if I'm having a rough day.
Good. Don't forget to use your colorful language and tell your story.
The owner reminds me of my own family, smiling and welcoming me. I love the banchan spread.
Banchan. For our English viewers, can you explain what banchan is?
Banchan is a set of side dishes that are popular in a Korean restaurant that are more often than not replenished free of charge. So, for example, the banchan spread, they have onion, kimchi, and peppers that are to die for.
Well, speaking of, first of all, to die for, good language. What does that mean when we say to die for? You know, students might hear the word die and might think that's bad. Oh, the restaurant's so bad, I'm gonna die. Is that what that means?
Oh, it's the opposite. It means that it's so good that you are willing to risk death to go there.
Yes. And speaking of banchan, let's do a shameless plug here. What's the name of your YouTube channel?
My YouTube channel is called Banchan Warrior. It's a great place to get many resources about life in Korea and about flipped learning, as well as different online and tech tools.
Yay.
One day, the owner even gave me a helping of bukbap free of charge. Service, she said proudly.
Well, that was really nice of her.
I need some contractions. If you are gonna eat...
Gonna is a good one too. Can you explain gonna?
Yeah, gonna is a informal contraction combining the word going to. What's interesting about gonna is that it only applies to the future going to. It does not apply to the verb to go. I can say I'm gonna go to work, but I cannot say I'm gonna work. If you're gonna eat goopop, let's go together. I love it so much. I just might die.
And you know, Ian, being the good student he is, he knows that a review is the owner's livelihood. What that means is when you're reviewing a business, you have to be very careful. You have to express, you know, good, positive digital citizenship. This is a thing you can explain to your students, that you don't want to trash or say negative things. You know, it's okay to publish a negative review if you do it respectfully and tactfully. But if you say something like, you know, the owner's a real jerk and you know, the food is just, you know, it's not a nice thing to do, because that is someone's life. That's someone's business, you know, so you have to be careful how you approach it. Think about how you would want them to write about your business.
Right. Just remember that when you're writing things to share online, these are real people that read this, and these are real people that own these businesses.
That's correct. You know, we sit behind a keyboard and it's easy to forget that you're talking about people, but it is a real life person.
It absolutely is. Well, I completed my assignment. I have posted my review, my 5-star review, and it is public.
All right, post it all for us to see. Did you enjoy today's lesson?
Oh, I sure did. It was very, very enlightening, and I feel like I learned so much. So thank you so much for sharing today, Mike. I really appreciate this, and I think that a lot of people will find this helpful.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And again, to wrap it up, you can do this lesson quickly within an hour with advanced students, or if you have students that are lower level, that's okay. We all start somewhere. You can scaffold this lesson and you could actually do it within 2 lessons. You can make one lesson the setup, talking about the adjectives, and then you can make the second lesson the do lesson where you do it. But I'm always happy to help and share materials. And in today's world, just writing isn't necessarily what it was 10 years ago. I mean, students are going to be more apt to read a review on their phones than they are to pick up an actual book. So that being said, thanks for having me. It was fun. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us today, and look forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, cheers.
안녕. 안녕.